Welcome to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. What does finding health look like for you? Do you have a vision for your future self and a way to get there? I'm Dr. Kris, and after 33 years in functional medicine and a lifelong journey through brain health, weight loss, hormones, mindset, and faith, I know that real transformation doesn't come from willpower or white knuckling your way to wellness. It comes from gratitude, honoring your body as the temple that God created. This show is about body stewardship, not shame. It's about rewiring your mindset, your metabolism, and your spirit to find lasting health without the grind. I'll help you cut through the noise, see opportunities instead of obstacles, and finally live the healthy, purposeful life you were created for. Let's spark faith and transformation together. Spark Faith starts now. Well, hello everyone. How are you today? My name is Dr. Kris Sargent, and I want to welcome you back to the Spark Faith Show. I'm back live. I think the last two episodes, or maybe two episodes, we were recorded ahead of time because I got married. So anyway, I'm back, and it's really good to be live again. Have to tell you, it's been a little bit of a crazy morning already. So anyway, today we are going to talk about the things that nobody told you about aging. And I'm really passionate about this. So I'm just going to warn you ahead of time. I can get really cranked up over this because I feel like so many of y'all like just buy into this. Well, I'm getting older, blah, blah, blah. Well, now I'm 35 or I'm 45 or whatever age you throw out there. And you just resign yourself to that kind of feeling, whatever that feeling might be. And I am here to tell you that at 62, I really don't feel much different than I did when I was 40 and some days 20, you know? So, and not that I have an unrealistic expectation of what I can do, because there are definitely days that I'm like, oh, there it is. Yep, shouldn't have done so much. But at the same time, it's super important to understand that aging is not what we hear on social media. It's definitely not what we hear on the news. It's not what our doctors tell us, and our traditional doctors anyway. It is really just, aging is just not this process of decline. It doesn't have to be, right? And I think that little saying, "it doesn't have to be," is what I hang on to a lot. My mom hung on to it. She was 94, almost 94 when she passed. And my dad is 94 now. And, he still walks a mile every day. He's got some mental things happening, and he's 94. And it just started a few years ago. So, like, he's lived a super long, healthy life. And I think, you know, it just doesn't have to look like this decline that starts when you're 35 or 40 or whatever age, you have in your head. Because really, this aging thing is just an ongoing process of adaptation. And I really think that a lot of women expect less from themselves every decade. However, your body can remain incredibly adaptable regardless of your age. And here's the thing, right? Our goal is not to become 25 again. I mean, some of y'all may think that, and I'm just not one of those people that thinks that that's important. I want to be the best that I can at the age that I am. And I also want to plan for being able to get on the floor with my grandkids when I'm 80, right? I want to be able to get on the floor with my great grandkids maybe when I'm 85 or 90. So that's what I'm planning for, right? Whatever I'm doing today is going to take me down the road 20 years, right? And we know that out of health anyway, right? Like type 2 diabetes doesn't start when you're 45 and get diagnosed. That started 20 years prior. That started when you got out of college and got a job where you were sitting and didn't go to the gym as much, maybe didn't eat as well because you couldn't afford it or whatever. But that's when those things start. They start 20 years ago, and we're just where you're at in your health is probably whatever happened over the last 20-ish years or so. It could be something remarkable that happened. You know, you may have had an accident, you may have had a late pregnancy, you may have had a pregnancy that just like took you off sideways. However, the goal again is not to become 25 again. The goal is to continue building at 45 so that 55 looks like 45 and that 65 looks like 45 or thereabouts, right? And that 85 can look like 65. That's the forward thinking of what I want to talk about today. So, what if one of the most damaging things about aging isn't necessarily aging itself? What if it's the story, right? This is what we've been talking about already. What if it's the story that we've been told about aging? All right, think about that again. What if aging in itself isn't the problem? What if it's the story that you've been told about aging or that we've been told about aging and the story that you're telling yourself because of whatever your parents told you about themselves aging? Like, can you see where there are some generational tendencies where, oh, well, my mom did this, so I'm going to be that way? And where do we need to break up some of those generational tendencies, right? So the story kind of goes like this, right? Everything slows down, everything declines, everything gets decrepit, right? You start like stiffness, all the things. You're gonna be in pain, right? It's inevitable. Um, I'm gonna be weaker. It's inevitable. Fatigue. Well, of course I'm tired. I'm old. And so while there are certain changes that do occur with age, and I don't want to dismiss that completely, that's just not the whole story, right? Because what if it's deficiencies over time that's created the fatigue or a lack of resources like we've talked about on some of my other episodes? What if it's that instead of aging, right? It's creating the symptoms of aging. However, what if you started recovering and putting yourself into nervous system recovery, into gastrointestinal recovery, mental health recovery? Like, what if we put ourselves into recovery mode? What would happen even at X age, right? 45, 55, 65, 75. I mean, I mention it often that I kind of crashed a little bit at last Christmas. And, you know, I can see that 4 or 5 bad nights of sleep make a big difference in my energy level and my ability to concentrate. And so I'm much, much more aware of recovery time now and how much more important that is. Like, I didn't sleep well Monday night, and I was supposed to go in on Tuesday for leg day, like Tuesday's leg day. And I realized that I was not recovered well. So I waited until yesterday for leg day. And when I woke up this morning, I'm like, okay, I definitely had leg day. And I usually take a day off after leg day before I go back into arm and leg back to back. So I decided today that I was just going to take a really long walk with the dog. We walked like 3.5 miles, got into zone 2, which is that great happy space of cardiovascular time. And like, okay, so I just adapted to the way that my body's feeling and really becoming really more cognizant of that. So here's the thing, your body never stops adapting. Okay. We adapt to exercise, easy or not. We adapt to learning. We can adapt to stress to some extent, right? We adapt to our environment, hot, cold, whatever. We adapt to our relationships, some good, some not so good, and we adapt to challenges. And that doesn't stop at 40, 50, 70, 85, right? Like all those things happen. And there's no lack of stories even on social media about people learning new things at an older age, right? new languages, new travels, new skills, dancing, all these things when you're over 70, over 80, right? You see the woman, 92-year-old woman scaling a wall or some silliness, but like that's the capacity that we can have. We can build muscle up until the day we die if we choose to. We can build it. Does it come easy like it did in our 20s? Probably not. However, right, it can still happen. We can still adapt to that. We can improve our balance, like standing on one foot. Later in life, we can improve our cardiovascular fitness. We can strengthen relationships. We can shift relationships. We can shift our mental health. And we can definitely grow spiritually throughout our life. And then what wisdom do we get to bring into that, right? Later in our life. So aging is really about adaptation. And it doesn't eliminate adaptation. The body remains trainable. And I love that, right? The brain remains trainable. When I first started seminary a couple of years ago, y'all, I couldn't concentrate for more than about 20 or 30 minutes. Like I just didn't have the capacity, the brain train that I needed to move into the amount of reading that was necessary. And I hear it all the time. Oh, I fall asleep when I read, blah, blah, blah. Yes. And this was my new job. This was part of my new job, right? Like I have to read a lot. And so over the past 2.5 years, I can sit down and read for 3 or 4 hours. Do I take breaks? Sure, about every hour and a half. However, I can get right back in it. And it's just a trained brain. So our body remains trainable, our brain remains trainable, and our soul remains teachable. So, in all of that, it's really about capacity and not perfection. And I have said this like progress is so much more impressive than perfection, right? Progress is so much more impressive than perfection. And I know that I spent a lot of years pursuing perfection, and I know that my audience has spent a lot of years pursuing perfection because like attracts like, right? The perfect diet, the perfect workout, the perfect fat reducing thing, the perfect routine, the perfect body, whatever. But life really doesn't reward perfection. You will be rewarded in capacity and your ability to do more, right? Your ability to recover better, your ability to adapt and respond as opposed to react, right? To carry responsibility in a way that allows Jesus into that heaviness and into the trials of your life that you realize that you need help. And it's not weakness to ask for that help. We navigate difficulties so much better without falling apart. So think about two women facing the same challenge, right? One is completely overwhelmed and the other one handles it well. Most of the time, the difference isn't about intelligence at all, right? It isn't motivation. The overwhelmed woman wants to be able to handle it. It's really about capacity and her ability to step back and say, okay, what's important here? What needs to come first? And sometimes when we are in overwhelm, it's really hard to see that. And we haven't trained ourselves to slow down in those moments of overwhelm. So that, like, overwhelm to me just feels like this giant tsunami. But if we just stand still, the wave will pass, right? And we can take a deep breath. And as the tide recedes, we can go, okay, there's the tsunami. Now I can look at it and figure out a better way to handle it. So I think that there's a reality in midlife that we are managing so many things, careers and marriages and aging parents, adult children, finances, sometimes some health concerns. So the goal isn't perfection. The goal is becoming strong enough mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically to carry what life requires, right? Y'all know I took care of my mom for 5 years, and there was a place in there that I had to figure out how to take care of myself so that I could take care of her in a healthier way, right? So that's where the goal is becoming strong enough. And it's not about carrying things perfectly, it's about becoming strong enough to carry things better, right? Not some kind of perfection that you see on Instagram in those moments. And y'all, you know that strength is not necessarily bigger muscles, right? And you know that we all think like, okay, some squats, some dumbbells, some gym. I hate the gym, blah, blah. I don't. I love the gym, but that's because I put my AirPods in and just do my thing. I don't pay attention to anybody else. Anyway, but yes, physical strength does matter. But it can also show up not just in that physical strength, right? The ability to move through life and pop up and down stairs or whatever, but it also shows up in emotional strength. And I was thinking about this morning, like our mental and emotional ability to accept whatever things are happening at the current moment, like not let it go, right? We do have to let go, but in that process, we have to open our hand and look at what is happening here. And it doesn't just like, okay, let it go. No, it's looking at it and then saying, wow, okay, I see this thing and I have to accept that this is where I'm at. Right? It's really about the ability to accept. And the quicker that we can accept what's happening, the quicker we can move into how to solve it. So, aging is about being able to move quicker into solutions and not hanging on to things from the past. Um, what about relational strength, your ability to communicate and forgive and stay connected and stay engaged in all of that? And spiritual strength, like our trust in God when circumstances are so challenging that we don't see a way through, but He already sees our way through. So the strongest women I know really are not necessarily the women who lift the most weight, right? They're the women who have really developed this capacity in every area of their life and are working on capacity in an area that they know that it's not perfect and it's never gonna be perfect. So I want to kind of come into the last little bit of this with maybe some hidden strength builders, right? Um, we may think that strength comes from comfort, like oh, I need some comfort food, or I just need to chill and be comfy. But really, we gain strength through challenge, right? And recovery from those challenges. We've talked about muscle recovery, and that's where the strength is built, is in the recovery, not necessarily at the gym. But um, this isn't, this is not overwhelming challenge. This is appropriate challenge. That's what's going to build strength. Like muscles become stronger when they're challenged, but also when they recover well. Resilience grows because adversity is encountered and we can recover well, right? Wisdom develops through experience and what we see from our years along the way and gather that up, right? In recovery and slowing down to see what we've learned. And faith really deepens through this crazy dependence that when we lean into that, it gets better, right? It just gets better. So we're not talking about trauma, we're talking about growth, right? The body the body really grows when demands are balanced with recovery. And this is what, we connected this. I want to connect this to my last episode because that we talked a lot about recovery and how important recovery is. Stress without recovery just leads to exhaustion, right? Challenge without recovery leads to actually lower strength and more overwhelm. But challenge with recovery leads to growth. And strength is built in this space between the challenge and the recovery. And that's where we build the strength that we're talking about at this time. So let's bring in stewardship, because you all know that this is about stewarding our body and stewarding things around us. But one of the cool things in scripture is that growth is expected, right? From the beginning, right? Trees grow, seeds are planted, and plants grow. Disciples grow, faith grows. God designed living things to develop, and He expects that development in our faith too. We're not just supposed to remain stagnant. Yep, I believe in Christ. Yep, I believe in God, and that's where we stop. Right? This is sanctification. This is growth. And stewardship isn't preserving yourself in some sort of comfort bubble, right? It's participating in healthy growth and strength. And as we age, we can look back on the times that we kind of kept ourselves in a bubble and isolated. And finally, when we burst out of it was when the growth and the change happened. So it's really about participating in healthy growth, right? This means you continue to learn, right? I'm in seminary. That doesn't mean you need to go to seminary, but maybe you get on your second language that you always wanted, or the piano, or something that you always wanted to learn. Like, you want to learn how to paint, go learn how to paint, right? Movement. If you've never been to the gym before, that is fine. Get your sneakers. They don't have to be cute, but they need to be new, and go hit the sidewalk or a treadmill or someplace that you can enjoy nature just for a little while. What about serving people, right? That gets us out of ourself and into the world, and we can get so much more out of that. What about connection? We can connect in that service place. We can trust, we can adapt through every single season of our life. So stewardship isn't really maintaining what you have. It's faithfully developing what you've been given. So, anyway, over the last 4 weeks, we've learned that metabolism is life, stress requires recovery, fatigue absolutely reflects demands, and strength builds capacity. And so, next week, we're going to wrap all those up into a really fun episode, because health is not about perfection. Health is not the absence of symptoms. Health is not a perfect lab report. Health is the ability to adapt, recover, and engage fully in the life that God has given you. And that's exactly where we're headed next week. So the body, the mind, emotions, the spirit can really remain capable of growth and adaptation throughout your life. Strength is not about perfection. It's about the capacity to meet the demands of life with resilience and wisdom and faithfulness, right? So I want to leave you with that today. And just remember that we are here to renew health, rooted in truth and restored by grace. And I love you guys. Hit subscribe, hit like, find me on social, and follow me. Why not? I might have a couple good things to say. I've been out here for a long time. So love you guys. Have a fantastic day. Love you. Bye. You've been listening to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. Tune in every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on the Transformation Talk Radio for more simple, faith-fueled steps to live the vision God placed in your heart. Are you ready to take the next step? Schedule a discovery call or connect with me at drkrissargent.com. That's DRKRIS Sargent.com. While you're there, download my free ebook, Endless Energy, the 6 non-negotiable keys to endless energy, and sign up for an upcoming masterclass. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share the show, and I'd love to connect with you on social media at Dr. Kris Sargent. Let's keep sparking faith and transformation together. Can't wait to see y'all next time.